everyone, and welcome back to the Division II SAAC Champions for Life podcast. As you guys should definitely know by now, our hope and goal is to connect with professionals either associated with Division II athletes or, prior Division II athletes to see where they are, what got them to where they are in their career, and how their Division II experience helped prepare them for the next stage in their lives. My name is Wiley Cain. I am currently a senior quarterback at Kentucky Wesleyan College. I major in biology on the pre-medicine track. I also serve as the chair of Division II National SAAC. Joining me today, I'm so pleased to welcome Dr. Robert Dranoff. Dr. Dranoff has been serving in athletics for many years. He currently serves as the commissioner for the East Coast Conference. Dr. Dranoff, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Really happy to be with you, Wiley. Thank you.
And we're excited to have you. So I just want to jump right in because we have a lot of really great information to cover. So, my first question, it deals with support on campus. So who are some of the people on campus you've seen give the most support for your student athletes?
Wiley, let me, before I answer that, let me just preface this by saying that I'm in no way an expert. I'm not a career counselor. I'm not an expert on careers, but as you mentioned, I've been involved in college athletics for all my career, both as a administrator and as a professor. And so I'm just excited about the idea that we talk about life after school, and life after sports. And I think one of the important things that you just mentioned is the fact that I think sometimes student athletes don't realize how many resources are available to them on campus, starting with their coaches and the administrators that are part of their athletic programs, the professionals on campus that do work in career services, whose job it is to assist, whether it's basic ideas of putting together a resume or cover letters, all the way up through there's so many resources now in career services areas to help students prepare and find jobs. And then one of the real big resources, we were just talking about classes before we came on. One of the big resources is your professors. And one of the big points that I really want to make is that whether you're talking about on campus or people like me in a conference office, all of us want to help students. I mean, that's why we got into this work. And so these are resources that are really available that need to be taking advantage of.
Definitely. And that was a great point that you just made. I've heard from so many conference executives and so many people who I would not think originally, hey, like they want to help me out. They're like, hey, ask us. Like, we're not too cool. We've not been in this business for too long to want to help student athletes. So that's one of the biggest things I've learned through my experience on National SAAC. So I want to move on, and I just want to talk about something that's an offshoot of that topic of campus support, which is networking. We all hear networking. It's a buzzword. It conjures up to me an image of standing around in a suit and talking to people and using correct grammar and all that good stuff. And it feels like something very difficult to do, right? So if you could talk to us a little bit, what is the importance of networking and how would you go about that?
Whether I'm talking to student groups or individuals or when I teach, I teach sport management on the graduate level, and you're right. Networking almost becomes I don't want to say it's a dirty word, but it's something like, oh, I really have to do that? Or what if I'm too shy? What if I don't want to bother someone and ask them for help? But networking isn't necessarily about asking for help. Networking goes back to resources. Networking to me is exploration. Whether or not you know what you want to do specifically with your career goals, the idea behind networking is opening up your eyes and your experiences to different ways of thinking, different opportunities, and I think a big part of networking is it has to be the concept that people want to help. So I know that I'll hear from students saying, I don't want to bother that person and ask them for some information. I'm going to give you a secret. People like me love to help, think that that's part of their responsibility. And here's the other part. They love to talk about themselves and what they do. It's not an ego thing. It's just that, I'm happy when somebody says, hey, listen, I'd love to hear about what you do, because it's a chance for me to talk about my conference and my career. And so networking, there's so many opportunities for you to get involved. Part of it is on campus, whether it's your coach or, again, your administrator who have contacts in the field that you might be interested in, or maybe you don't even know they have contacts in the area that you're interested in getting involved, letting them know that, these are some of the things that you want to do. Alumni on campus, through your campus alumni office and other opportunities are amazing opportunities for networking. I think the fact that whether you're on the national SAAC or the SAAC on your conference, in your conference, or on your campus, or any other group, those are all networking opportunities to open up doors for yourselves. And I think one of the biggest tools out there is something like LinkedIn, which I'm sure many student athletes are members of. I recommend it highly, even maybe it's work to put those LinkedIn pages together, but the value is amazing. And lastly, I think one of the big things about being a student athlete, you hear a lot of times that employers would like student athletes. They're interested in employing student athletes, and that becomes a networking tool too. Is being able to promote what you do on your campus, because that opens up doors too.
And thank you for bringing that point up. I just plug Division II National SAAC recently put out a professional development document, and on one of those parts of the professional development document was talking about transferable skills from being a student athlete to the workplace. So I love that point that you brought up there about, student athletes are desirable job candidates, and we can lean into that.
Wiley, before you get off of that, it's interesting. One of the things I talk about when I teach is what are employers looking for. So my focus in teaching is sport management, but again, this is transferable to anything. What are employers looking for in 2022? And a lot of the qualities that they're looking for is emotional intelligence, is work ethic, is teamwork, is problem solving. What you just said, all of those are elements of what you learn as a student athlete, being part of a team, being a leader on a team, or being a leader in SAAC or other organizations on your campus. All those are transferable skills. A lot of the technical stuff, maybe not as somebody that wants to be pre-med or go into a medical or a profession, or maybe a specific area like accounting. You need those specific skills and knowledge. But in a lot of jobs, when you get that job, they're going to teach you a lot of the things that you need to know. But a lot of things they can't teach you are those soft skills, that employers are looking for.
Definitely. And that I was like, most of that stuff you're saying, it sounds like the description of being a student athlete, right? So, as we are student athletes, one of those transferable skills from being a student athlete, right, I think is time management, right? So, you and I talked a little bit before we got on here about the importance of utilizing time wisely for student athletes. What do you think that looks like, utilizing your time, not only to get your homework done right, but to prepare for life after your sport?
Yeah, I've been part of Division II for over 25 years now. Been in other areas of college athletics as well. But one of the things I love when we talk about Division II is the whole concept of life and the balance. And in Division II, the ability, or hopefully the ability, to do well and achieve in your academics and your athletics, but also have those experiences that are allow you to grow in other areas. You talk about professional development, personal development, extremely important. And while it is a challenge, for a football player or any other student athlete, especially in their season, there's so many time commitments and expectations. But the reality is that some of the most important things that you learn as being a college student are what happens outside the classroom and outside the playing field too. So finding ways to be able to experience things other than your athletics and academics become really important. And that the need for that is time management. And you got to figure out, but there's probably never been a time, in our history of where there are more available resources. I keep saying resources, but available opportunities for you to get involved in other things. So whether it's looking for internships or volunteer experiences, service to your community, all those things build your skills, build your network. One of the big problems when I was an AD for many years is how do student athletes find time for internships because of all the time constraints that they have on them. And so now what's happening a lot in many industries is the idea, well, there's internships and then there's things like micro internships where, maybe you could help out. In my world in athletics, maybe you help out in an event, maybe you get experience. Or you could do things virtually and get experience that way. More exposure, more opportunities to meet people and get the experience that are going to be valuable to you. But the time constraints are there. That's just a reality. And I'm not saying that you also don't need time to take care of yourself, because that's important, extremely important too. But this time, you only go around once. And so trying to figure out those kind of things become really important.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. I am actually technically employed by Kentucky Wesleyan College in 3 different areas, right? I give, tours for the school, and that helps me with my people skills. Although, everybody who knows me knows I'm outgoing. I don't know if the people skills was the transferable skill I need to work on most, but just different things like that. Being a peer tutor, working with the athletic department. So thank you for bringing that up. And we're running up close on time. I want to thank you for all the amazing information that you've given us. I wanted to ask you one last question. So a lot of our student athletes, they want to go into grad school. Myself, I want to go into medical school or to get a professional degree, right? So where does graduate school fit in? What advice would you give those who are considering graduate school and preparing for that?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a lifelong learner. I went back to get my doctorate when I was over 50 years old, and I tell people all the time that any opportunity to be educated is important. A couple of caveats. One is that make sure that it's a program that you have really researched well and know that it's going to be of value to you. I work with a lot of students who haven't been able to find a job, so they say, okay, well, I'll go to grad school then. I'm not sure that's always the best next step. So spend your time researching it, find the right school that's going to lead to what you want, figure out the finances. Talking as a dad who both daughters went through grad school, they're both work but that's an expensive proposition, valuable, but look for your opportunities. You're a former student athlete, maybe there's graduate assistantships and other opportunities or jobs that will pay for your school. But spend time thinking about it. It shouldn't just be a jump right in and this is the normal thing. Make sure you think about it. But hey, education is key.
I completely agree, and thank you so much for that, and thank you for your wisdom in this short time that we've been able to spend together. I know that there are so many great pieces of advice that you've given us throughout this entire thing. So I really enjoyed our time together. So I just want to say thank you one more time.
It was my pleasure. I would just encourage people, whether you contact me, if there's somebody that you aren't getting answers from or feel that you could make connections, whether you talk to anybody at the NCAA, everyone is willing to help and just takes that step. If somebody says no, you move on to the next person and you get the answers that you want. But I think this is a great program and a great priority for the organization that you're leading, Wiley. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Well, so that is a wrap on our one of our last Champions for Life podcast episodes. Be on the lookout for our next one next month. It's been such a joy putting out this podcast for all of our listeners. I really hope that you guys have found something useful in it. I really hope that there have been some tidbits of advice, whether it be in the resume podcast or our STEM podcast, any of our podcast episodes, hopefully this podcast episode that you say, hey, my college experience has been made a lot better because of that one piece of information. So until next time, I'm signing off. Thank you guys so much for listening.